Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Legal Access, and thanks for joining us here at our new time at 11:30. We've been here for a couple of weeks now, and we'll be here for the foreseeable future, so make sure and change your calendars accordingly. Today we're going to be talking about automobile accidents. If you've been in a car wreck recently or know somebody who has and have any questions about what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing, today is the day to get those questions answered. Here on the panel to answer those questions today, first from the McGuire Law Firm is Ian McGuire.
See you, Dave.
Also from the McGuire Law Firm, Mike Smith.
Good morning, Dave.
And from the O'Neill Law Firm, Rick O'Neill.
Good afternoon, or good morning.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
good morning
morning
now. It's good to see you again. Rick, as we've said many times on the show, Rick not only handles automobile cases in his office and workers' comp, but he also started off before his legal career, he was in law enforcement. So he still handles people when they get arrested and for DUIs and other things, and does a great job with all that. So, and Mike, of course, has been with our firm since January. It's been fantastic for our firm, and we've just had a great time working with Mike. Mike has been defending automobile cases with insurance companies for many, many years, and
Over 3 decades.
over 3 decades. So we're so happy to have his knowledge, and he's just a fantastic trial lawyer with us as well. But if you have any questions today, obviously regarding our topic, which is automobile accidents, give us a call. But you can also call us on anything to do with personal injury, or you even have a question for Rick on some criminal stuff. Don't hesitate to give us a call at 843-848-8080. That's 843-848-8080, Dave.
And we've talked in the past when we've done this topic, we brought up the autonomous vehicles, which becoming more and more popular. And I did happen to catch a headline here the other day. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. The headline is that Tesla was ordered to pay $243 million in deadly autopilot crash. And then it says this will open the floodgates. So we always wondered who was going to be to blame. Was it going to be the car maker, the computer maker, or the actual driver themselves? Well, in this actual case, apparently it's going to be the car maker. Do you guys agree with that, or do you see that this is going to open the floodgates?
If somebody gets injured due to the negligence of others, I don't know if that's floodgates. That's not going to change. If serious injuries occur, there's going to be claims, and valid claims if there's negligence. But I think what's important to realize is eventually cars are going to be all self-driving, right? I mean, it's just a matter, I would think, for the most part. The day will come. It might not be in the 3 of our time where that the majority of the cases are that way. And hopefully it will decrease the amount of injuries but as far as who's to blame, a lot of times it's as a plaintiff's attorney, you look at the big picture and then you start assessing blame, because a lot of times it's not one company or one person. It's a combination of things, and I think that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. But what I will say, as far as attorneys are concerned, things will change, and the younger attorneys are going to have to really, I guess any of us that are practicing are going to have to really get caught up on these new systems, because they're going to be prevalent as far as cases go. And I hope not. I hope it decreases. Really, I hope it decreases the amount of accidents and injuries. But especially in the short term, you're going to see things like this, and it's going to be very upsetting to people. It's one thing when you have a human being that's driving and makes a mistake, and it's very easy to ascertain the responsibility. But when you rely on a company and they tell you everything's going to be fine, all of a sudden your car has killed somebody. I mean, just imagine that, and when you did nothing wrong. So I don't know what you'll
Getting
think.
back to what you were saying though, Dave, initially, you may have the manufacturer, the Tesla. A lot of times what will happen is you'll get the manufacturer will bring in as additional defendants the computer maker, the chip maker, things of that nature. So I don't know how that case was framed up. I actually was involved in a case with an autopilot Tesla accident, and it was interesting, some of the background facts involved in that case, to see how it happened and what the circumstances were around the accident, that the vehicle was on autopilot. Teslas have a lot of cameras, so there are a lot of different angles from the wheels and the bumpers and things of that nature that you could see the accident happening. And hindsight being 2020, you look at it and say, well, wait a minute, if I were driving and seeing this particular set of facts and circumstances, I may have reacted differently.
Right.
But we're seeing it in hindsight. So it's going to be interesting to see how this area of law develops.
But Mike, on that case, was expert witnesses a big factor, or was Tesla not a defendant? Because it would seem to me that if you're going to be suing a manufacturer, they are going to have billions of dollars to defend it, and it's going to be expert witness driven, and so only the most catastrophic cases would be feasible.
Right. This was not a situation where Tesla was made a defendant.
And it's probably like you have the construction type cases and you have subcontractors and a lot of times a lot of the different entities are brought in, and through discovery process you find out a lot more of who's truly responsible, but sometimes it takes that to really get to the bottom of it.
Automobile accidents, that's our topic here today. If you've got a question, make sure and get it in. We'll get it answered. 848-8080 is our phone number. Of course, area code 843. Call us here today on automobile accidents. Now, if somebody's been in an accident and there's like no medical injuries or no medical bills, and they're trying to take care of the property damage themselves, the damage to their car, almost nobody, pretty much nobody is happy with the offer they get from insurance companies. What goes into the process of formulating an offer by the insurance companies?
Well, what they do, they have their own set of programs and benchmarks that they look at. There's different companies that they will rely on. Those companies actually do investigation of what similar cars in the area are going for. The problem that you have is you may have an individual that's got a very low mileage vehicle that they can't replace it for what the insurance company wants to pay them for. Another thing that people don't look at is diminution of value, or the fact that you've been in an accident, your car's worth less because of that. Most insurance companies don't want to voluntarily give you a diminution in value. They want you to have to work for it, so to speak.
Yeah, the first offer is always going to be a lowball offer or something like that. And if you haggle with the insurance company, or we help our injury clients with the property damage in our office, and a lot of times just with some work, and if you don't let them rush you, you can get substantially more than their first offer on the property damage, as well as an injury claim. They do
And
the
some
same
people
thing.
don't realize, Rick, right? You can file for arbitration for property damage.
That's a tool that Horry County has, and I'm sure other counties utilize it too, that you can file a property damage arbitration claim with the clerk's office, and there's a panel of attorneys that act as judge on that that will listen to that case.
Now, I know we have viewers in North Carolina as well, but in South Carolina and or North Carolina, does it matter what percentage of fault has been assigned to you in an automobile accident?
I'll let Ian address the North Carolina.
Yeah, well, North Carolina is still contributory negligent, where technically if you were found to be, as a plaintiff, 1% at fault, you might be prohibited from collecting. There are certainly ways around that, but makes it much tougher. In South Carolina, we have what's called comparative negligence, where as long as you're not more than 50% at fault, then you'll be able to recover. If the jury came back and the plaintiff had a claim, but they found the plaintiff was 40% at fault, then whatever the verdict is going to be reduced by that 40%.
Right.
But at least there's a recovery, and I think it's a very fair way that we do it here in South Carolina. And frankly, years ago, I heard there was a lot of murmurs that it was going to they were going to get a change in North Carolina, that law, and it just never has. So they still have the contributory negligence. There are very few states that have it anymore.
When I first started practicing, it was contributory negligence, and then
In South Carolina.
South Carolina, and what we would see happen is the juries were almost doing a comparative negligence type of verdict. they wouldn't necessarily penalize somebody for having that 10% negligence or
Right.
whatever. You could see a reduction in the verdict, and you kind of knew what was going on behind the scenes, but it wasn't a strictly legal
Right.
result.
We're going to run off to our first break here. We still got about 20 minutes left in the show, though, so if you have any questions about automobile accidents, make sure and get them in. The number's on your screen. Call us here today. We'll get your questions answered here on Legal Access, brought to you by the McGuire Law Firm. It's Legal Access. Welcome back here, brought to you by the McGuire Law Firm. If you have any questions about automobile accidents, that's what our topic is here today. And let's go ahead and go to the phone to start off our second segment here. Jim is in Myrtle Beach. Hi, Jim. Thanks for holding on through the break. What's your question for the panel today?
Hello, everybody. I appreciate you taking my call.
Sure thing.
So I was in a motorcycle accident approximately 2 weeks ago. Police report says I was zero at fault. The guy turned from 2 lanes over in front of me. So I suffered a broken neck, and dealing with insurance companies, trying the claimants or the party at fault insurance company, trying to get them to respond has been painful at best. Weeks between response. Is there anything you can do about that? And second of all, when it gets down to if you do arbitration or the injury, can they subpoena all my medical records? There's some things that you don't maybe want other people to see, type of thing. And that's my question. Medical records. And,
Yeah. And first of all, we're sorry that you're going through this. I know that's going to be, and I hope you have a quick and complete recovery, Jim. But, the insurance company should get back to you, especially with a serious injury like this. I would encourage you to sit down with an attorney. Nobody's going to charge you for initial consultation, even if you do it over the phone or on a Zoom if you can't get around right now. But I would strongly encourage you to do that, because even talk to a couple of attorneys and find one you're comfortable with, because your life is going to be altered to some extent from this, and you really should make sure that you optimize your recovery. As far as your medicals, the answer is maybe, but probably
Most likely.
But they would have to have a reason to some extent for getting your medical records. And I assume you're talking about things that are completely unrelated, that were in the past maybe. And unless there's some evidence, especially when you didn't do anything wrong, I think they probably would need a judge's order if you refuse to get those. Mike, you were on the other side of this, so I'll let you speak to that.
One of the things about the insurance companies is what they are doing a lot of times is they're trying to get up with their insured, the person that caused the accident, and they're going to try to get their version of what happened. And there are times when the at-fault party will actually tell their insurance company, it wasn't my fault, this motorcycle did something wrong, they were the one that was at fault. So the insurance company initially may take the position of their insured. Don't be frustrated with that. Like Ian says, get an attorney that can cut to the bottom of that pretty quickly. On the medical record side, if you've got pre-existing neck or back problems, they're going to want to do an investigation to see just how much, if any, and it sounds to me like you had a considerable accident, but how much your pre-existing condition was worsened by this accident. We call it an aggravation of a pre-existing condition. So they're going to want to have access to those medical records to make that determination, because that goes into their evaluation of the case.
One thing that I have to explain a lot of times to clients is the fact that the investigating officer circled no for you and yes for the at-fault driver on that form, or the fact that the other driver was given a traffic ticket. You can't let your guard down, or that they fixed your car. If a lawsuit is ever filed, you're starting off fresh generally, and the defense attorney that's hired by the insurance company for the at-fault driver may just deny any and all liability and put the burden on you to prove your case in a lawsuit. So it's not the end of the road with the fact that you were circled no on that, what they call the FR10. So for the viewers out there, don't ever let your guard down because of some of these things, because again, in a lawsuit, they can start off fresh and put you to the burden that you are 0% at fault.
Right.
Jim, thanks for calling in. As Ian said, your consultations are free, so call somebody right now to help you through this process, because you don't want to wait any longer, although you got, as far as statute of limitations is concerned, you got some time left, but don't wait any longer and don't let this slide by. Let's make sure somebody helps you out in this situation.
And Dave, just to follow up on that, there may be traffic cam
Right.
information and things of that nature that they want to act on as soon as
Exactly.
they can to preserve that evidence.
Jim, again, like Ian said, hopefully you have a fast and complete recovery, and thanks for calling in today. Let's stay in Myrtle Beach. We have John on the line with us right now. John, hi, thanks for calling in. What's your question today?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I had a question on coverage and limits when I purchase car insurance for my automobiles, as far as liability, body injury, property damage, personal injury, things of that nature, underinsured.
Yep.
What should I be looking for when I talk to these insurance companies as far as protect myself?
Yeah.
Well, liability and uninsured are mandatory. Where you have to look at is how much coverage. Get as much coverage as you possibly can afford. The minimum limits are $25,000 per person injured and a total of $50,000. If you hit someone and they spend a night in the hospital, that coverage is blown and they're going to be coming after you personally. And, if you own a home or other assets, you could really be putting your finances at risk. So always talk to an agent if possible versus doing it online, and get as much coverage to protect the value of your home and other assets. Also, another area of coverage, and I'll pass this on to Ian, is what's called UIM underinsured coverage.
Right.
Yeah, so we would strongly advise you to get as much UIM coverage as you could possibly afford. It's usually not that much to get the higher amount. The insurance the company may not, they have a duty to tell you about UIM, but they may not explain to you the importance of having it. If somebody hits you and it's not your fault and you have extensive injuries and they have $25,000 in insurance, that's not, as Mike mentioned and Rick mentioned, it's, that's a night in the hospital. So Rick, excuse me. And that's not going to go very far. So you want to have underinsurance that's going to step in and cover your damages. So get as much underinsured as you can get. UM, which is uninsured motorist coverage, you're going to have as part of the policy, but you want to get as much of that as you can. But the UIM, you could actually say, no, I don't want UIM. Please don't do that, because
Right.
if anyone, you or anyone in your family was injured, you may very well really need that UIM, and it's not that much more expensive. The other thing I would add is, if you have assets and what Rick said, they're going to be coming after you, a way to avoid that is not only get as much, say a 250 policy or whatever you can afford with auto, but also ask your insurance agent about an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy is an extended policy that really will cover you and your family if there's been an unfortunate negligence and somebody was hurt, that you hurt somebody.
Yep.
And you could even get some umbrella coverages actually have UIM additions to it as well. So those are great questions, and I appreciate you asking us, because I think I feel so bad sometimes when people come in, they're seriously injured and the other driver has no insurance or little insurance, and the UIM policy is either non-existent or very low, and people have extensive injuries. So please consider that.
Another tip is try to keep all the vehicles in your family household on the same policy. Sometimes insurance companies will want to put the motorcycle on a separate policy. You want to fight them on that, avoid that. It's best to put all the vehicles on a multi-vehicle policy. Number one, you get a discount. Number two, there may be occasions where you can stack the coverages and get more than just on the car that you were involved in. You can get coverage from the other vehicles. But if they're all on separate policies, then you're not going to be able to do that stacking.
Right. And that stacking issue is not allowed in North Carolina, but it is allowed in South Carolina, and that's one thing that South Carolina insurance law is favorable to the consumer on. But it's like Rick said, and even Ian mentioned, when you go to the emergency room and you get a couple of CT scans and you just have a few hour visit there, you're looking at $8,000 or $10,000 for just the ER bill. And it's just a minimum limits policy of $25,000. The only reason you would have one of those is really an economic issue. It's just that you just can't afford anything more. I would get, like Rick and Ian said, as much as I could possibly stand and afford, and add the UIM insurance. And the mention of the umbrella policy, most insurance companies require a $250,000 liability policy before you get the umbrella policy. Yep.
John, thanks for the call. Appreciate that. Hopefully we answered your question. We've got to run to a break here again real quick. When we get back, we'll have just under 10 minutes left. But if you have any questions about automobile accidents, the number's on your screen. Give us a call and we'll get the answers as soon as we get back right here on Legal Access. Welcome back. It's Legal Access being brought to you by the McGuire Law Firm here on WMBF News. We're talking about automobile accidents here today. Got a couple minutes left if you want to try to get a call in last minute. But we've talked about whenever we do automobile accidents, if you're driving around in a company vehicle, you get into an accident and it's the other person's fault, what does that do as far as your case is concerned? How does that complicate things?
If you are working, it actually makes your case, if you got to get hurt, it's the best way to get hurt in the sense that you get two bites at the apple. You got your workers' comp case, which provides you with certain benefits, and the third-party case has potential damages that you would not be found under a workers' comp case. So you'd rather not get hurt, but if you were going to get hurt and you're driving and it's not your fault and you're working, you do have more accessibility to benefits. Is that fair?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Rick, we were talking earlier about the different laws and people. I think in the paper there was something about the move over law. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think in a
explain that?
10-day period earlier this month, 3 highway patrolmen were struck when they were out, attending to traffic stops or traffic accidents. And because of that this week, and I think it's going through the end of the week, there has been a massive crackdown by the highway patrol statewide for people not moving over. So what the move over law is, if you're approaching a scene where there's any type of vehicle stopped with flashing lights, whether it's a tow truck, road workers, highway patrol, EMS, any of those type of situations, you have a duty under this new law to slow down and, more importantly, get in the lanes so you're not putting those workers at danger. And if for some reason you can't move the lanes, you really have a duty to really watch your speed and to avoid, just like these 3 tragic incidents in a 10-day period that just happened. You're putting these people at danger. And the fine on these type of tickets is over $1,000. So, I mean, be warned, they are out there actively. My office has been getting phone calls on it this week. That's how I found out about it, but they are being very aggressive about this, sending a message and making people wake up about their duty to be safe.
Thanks, Rick.
That's about all the time that we have here for today's show. When we get back next week, we're going to be talking about criminal law, so DUI, drug cases, anything to do with the criminal justice system. That'll be all next week. If you want to get some questions in advance, make sure and go ahead and email us legalaccess@wmbfnews.com. And remember, as far as automobile accidents are concerned, if you have any questions, consultations are free with personal injury lawyers, so do not be afraid to call a lawyer and get an opinion on what's going on in your life. Again, I want to thank our panelists here today. Got, of course, Ian McGuire from McGuire Law Firm, Mike Smith, and also Rick O'Neill. I'm Dave Priest. We'll see you again next week. Our topic, criminal law, right here on Legal Access.
You may wish to consult a lawyer to obtain case-specific legal advice. Information regarding lawyers can be located online or by contacting the South Carolina Bar Lawyer Referral Service, toll-free at 1-800-868-2284. If you are currently represented by an attorney, you should direct all legal questions to your attorney. The nature of any legal issue may depend on